This is Robin on the Road, your concierge for all things travel, and today I'd like to take you on the road with me to Albemarle County, Virginia, and Monticello, the home of 3rd President Thomas Jefferson. Pack your bags, let's go! On a recent on-the-road trip to Charlottesville, Virginia, I had the pleasure of visiting Monticello, the home of our 3rd President, Governor of Virginia, writer of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. I've been to Monticello at least a dozen times in my life, but every time I am struck by the beauty of the home and the surrounding countryside. Once you purchase your ticket, you enter the David M. Rubenstein Visitor Center. There is a film, Thomas Jefferson's World, telling the role that Monticello played in his life. The Griffin Discovery Room has several interactive digital exhibits for children and adults alike. There is also a cafe and gift shop. To get to Jefferson's home, you board a bus at the top of the stairs for a 2-minute drive to the house. You can walk up the trail to the home, but I have found that the trail is better returning to the visitor center. Your ticket will have your tour time on it. Do not miss your tour. While the house tour runs on a schedule, the grounds are at your leisure. Each location has information about its function and the people who work there. Plus, there are videos and scheduled talks about the gardens, shops, and slaves who made life possible at Monticello. The times for these talks are posted. Jefferson was born in Shadwell, Virginia on April 13, 1743. His father, Peter Jefferson, will pass in 1757, and 14-year-old Thomas will inherit the property. In 1770, Jefferson begins to build on the property, a 2-story brick structure, 18 by 18, with living quarters on top and a kitchen below. And it is here, in 1772, he will bring his wife, 23-year-old Martha Wales Skelton. And it is also here where he will begin to plan and build the first version of Monticello. A man of the Enlightenment, Jefferson has a passion for architecture. He will call Italian architect Andrea Palladio's The 4 Books of Architecture his architectural Bible. From the small house that is now the South Pavilion, Jefferson will build and change Monticello for most of his life. The Jeffersons will have 6 children, but only 2 that will live to adulthood. And it's after the birth of their 6th child, Lucy, that Martha Jefferson will pass in 1782. Before dying, she makes Jefferson promise that he will never marry again, a promise he will keep. Jefferson is devastated by the loss of his beloved wife. His daughter Lucy will die 2 years later. Paralyzed by his grief, in 1784, Jefferson will accept a post from Congress to Paris. First as trade minister, then minister to France. Jefferson will fall in love with European architecture, and the Monticello you see today is the result of that trip. Jefferson will take his eldest daughter Patsy and 19-year-old slave James Hemmings, whom he hoped would learn how to cook French cuisine. Later, they will be joined by his daughter, 6-year-old Polly, and 14-year-old slave Sally Hemmings. The Hemmings family had been inherited by Jefferson from his father-in-law, John Wales, who had fathered 6 children with Elizabeth Hemmings, making them half-brothers and sisters to his wife Martha. Sally is one of these children and seems to have resembled Martha. Had James and Sally Hemmings stayed in Paris, they would have been free. However, before his return, Jefferson will have a guarantee with both. James will return to teach the French style of cooking to his brother Peter in the kitchen at Monticello. He will officially be freed in 1796, only to commit suicide in 1801. Sally, possibly pregnant, will make a guarantee with Jefferson, not for her own freedom, but for that of the children that she will bear him. They will have at least 6 children, with 4 growing into adulthood. What Sally negotiates for herself are special privileges. She takes care of Jefferson's room, sews, and most important, raises her children. The relationship does not go unnoticed, and the term concubine will be used to describe her. Is it possible that Jefferson was in love with an African-American woman? Historians and descendants of Jefferson and Sally Hemmings have varying opinions on the relationship, but one thing is clear: Sally and her children were owned by Thomas Jefferson. Today, Sally's story is told as part of the Getting Word Oral History Project, began in 1993 and still ongoing. The project is a collection of stories that have been passed down through generations of families once enslaved by Jefferson. The Hemmings, Fawcett, Gillette, Granger, Hearn, Coleman, Henderson, Shelton, and many more are part of the story of the enslaved people of Monticello. Sally's own story comes to Monticello from her children that she had with Thomas Jefferson. By embracing the history of the enslaved men and women, Monticello is able to give a much better glimpse into what life was like for these men and women. Talks on the slaves and the stories that were relayed by the families are given on Mulberry Road, where slave cabins once stood. Check the times at the Visitor Center and House Gardens. Today, Monticello is a thriving tourist destination. The Thomas Jefferson Preservation Society has recreated not only Jefferson's world, but given a much better understanding of plantation life in Virginia. From Jefferson's extensive notes and the incredible archaeology began in 1957 that still goes on today, through recreations and the discovery of new sites, 750,000 items have been found on Mulberry Row alone, and they tell a story of a community of people whose story can also be told through the Getting Word Oral History Project began in 1993, so that the descendants of these people become more clear. And what I have found are some of the most talented, skilled, and ingenious people. Over the winter, from 2000 to 2001, archaeologists will locate an African American graveyard in the parking lot at Monticello. Originally, 20 graves were located, with 8 being children. Today, 40 graves have been confirmed, and even though we know the names of Monticello's enslaved, the identity of those buried here are unknown. The graves were not disturbed during the archaeology, and more sites have yet to be discovered. Today, Jefferson is as polarizing as he was during his time, and we struggle with the man who will write those famous words, "All men are created equal," and yet he will own slaves, including his own children. And while Jefferson was not able to live up to those words, nor the men of that time, I'd like to hope that what they did was lay down a path so that we might be a better country, a better people, and we should ask ourselves if we are living up to those words today. And if not, maybe we can view Jefferson through a broader lens, for he was an inventor, meteorologist, architect, horticulturalist, viticulturalist, writer, theologian, musician, horse breeder, botanist. His mind never stopped being curious about life, and maybe that's something we can learn from him. Things to know before you go. Monticello is open every day except Christmas and Thanksgiving, with hours running seasonally. Ticket prices at the time of this video were $32 for adult, $10 for children 12 to 18, and 12 and under is free for the self-guided tour. I have visited Monticello more than a dozen times in my life, and I can tell you that the self-guided tour is a bit disappointing. If this is your first time, pay the extra and upgrade to the behind-the-scenes day pass. I recommend a minimum of 4 hours to see the house, grounds, visitor center, movie, and exhibits. Monticello is an excellent family-friendly location with a lot of interactive and recreated history. Mobility impaired can be accommodated. I recommend purchasing tickets ahead of time, especially during the busy summer months. There are 2 cafes located on the property, one at the visitor center and one up on the hill. Don't miss the gift shop where you can purchase all things Jefferson, including some of his plants. For this on-the-road trip, I chose to stay at the Holiday Inn Express. It was clean, quiet, and close to Monticello. Breakfast is not included but can be purchased for under $10 when you make your reservation. Downtown Charlottesville is a closed-off street for shopping, dining, and entertainment. For this on-the-road trip, I ate at Jack Brown's, a fantastic, strictly burger and beer joint. Try the Greg Brady. If you have the time, hike the Saunders Monticello Trail up the mountain to Monticello. Stop at Mitchie's Tavern for fried chicken or Jefferson's Vineyard for some wine and a spectacular view. I will provide links in my description. I will also have follow-up videos on all of these places, so stay tuned. Lastly, I would like to thank you, dear traveler, for joining me on this deep dive to Monticello. I highly recommend Monticello for you and your family. You will leave with a broader perspective of what it was like to live on a plantation in Virginia at that time. Please smack that bell and subscribe to my page, and check out my latest video that I uploaded on Farmville, a great little Virginia town with wonderful shopping, food, and 2 universities. Until that time, this is Robin on the Road, your concierge for all things travel, and I hope to see you on the road again. Until then, safe travels.